Bonjour tout le monde. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I want to welcome members of council and their staff for joining us this morning here in council chambers and virtually. And I also want to thank the media for being in attendance today. And to the residents in our community who are watching live on YouTube, good morning and thank you for tuning in. I am happy to be here and joined by my colleagues this morning, Debbie Stewart, General Manager of Strategic Initiatives, Alain Gontier, General Manager of Public Works, Rick Leary, General Manager of Transit Services, who are here to outline the actions of the city that the city is taking to prepare for the anticipated increase of travel and to share details on the measures that the city is taking to help residents get to their destination. And you'll see that we have a number of other people at the table today. We're also joined by Tammy Rose of Infrastructure and Water Services, Marcia Wallace, our General Manager of Planning, Development and Building Services, Dan Chenier, our General Manager of Recreation, Culture and Facility Services, as well as other city staff who are here to answer questions this morning. Come September, more people are going back to the office. Students are heading back to school, and we expect as many as 65,000 additional trips downtown every week. Nous aurons plus de déplacements.
There will be more people going additional trips on our routes.
Council approved the city's transportation and mobility action plan in July. And today, my colleagues will walk you through the implementation of this action plan and provide more details about what residents can expect this fall. We want to provide as much information as possible to the public so that you can make informed decisions about how you move through your day. Nous voulons donner à nos restants
We want to
l'information.
provide as much information as possible to the public so that you can make informed decisions about how you move through your day.
Staff will also outline how we continue to monitor what is happening, how we're going to adjust as needed, and how we're going to continue working with our partners across the region to ensure that traffic is flowing better for everybody. Today's technical briefing will give you more detail on the specific changes that we're making and how they're being implemented. I'm now going to invite Debbie to provide you with a progress update on the Transportation and Mobility Action Plan. Thank you, merci, and over to you, Debbie.
Thank you, Wendy. Good morning. The Transportation, Mobility and Action Plan is about preparing Ottawa for a busier fall and changing travel patterns. With more people traveling to work, to school, to daily activities, the city is taking a coordinated approach across departments to help people and goods move safely and reliably around the city. And this is whether they walk, cycle, drive, or take transit. As Wendy mentioned, the strategy was approved by Council in July. Since then, the city has quickly moved into implementation to ensure that the measures are in place and that the organization is ready to respond as fall travel patterns emerge.
The strategy was approved by City Council in July. Since then, the city has moved into the implementation with a strong focus on making sure the measures are in place and the organization is ready to respond as fall travel patterns emerge.
The city is maintaining strong visibility on implementation across the organization so that progress can be tracked and any issues can be identified and resolved early. We have also increased coordination with federal and regional partners, and this is in recognition that transportation conditions in Ottawa are influenced by activities across the broader National Capital Region. At the same time, communications are being put in place so that residents, businesses, and councillors have a clearer understanding of what to expect and where to find the information they need as conditions evolve. And importantly, the approach is designed to remain flexible. We will not know exactly how travel patterns will develop until fall travel is underway. So the focus is on having the monitoring, coordination, decision-making mechanisms in place to identify emerging issues and adjust as needed. Today's briefing will provide a practical, geographic picture of what residents can expect this fall and the measures in place to support the movement of people and goods across the city. Le brefage fournira un aperçu géographique pratique de ce à quoi
This
les
briefing will
résidents
provide a practical geographic picture of what residents can expect this fall and the measures in place to support the movement of people and goods across the city.
The overview is structured around 4 geographic areas: Central, East, South, and West. For each area, the briefing will provide a focused view of travel and traffic conditions, so anticipated peak period, congestion and travel conditions on key routes, construction impacts, major projects that are affecting the network, including anticipated timelines, mitigation measures, so actions being taken to minimize the impact and maintain network reliability, transit options. These are service enhancements, key connections, and alternative travel options, and then keeping you all informed. Tools and information and resources to help residents understand conditions and plan their commute. I would now like to introduce my colleague, Alain Gontier, General Manager, Public Works, to provide information on what to expect on the transportation network this fall. Thank you.
Merci, Debbie. Bonjour tout le monde. So as you've heard from Debbie and Wendy, Ottawa is preparing for a change in travel demand this fall, resulting from the federal government's increase in office presence. At the same time, Ottawa continues to experience significant population growth, evolving traffic patterns, increased demand on roads, transit, cycling, and pedestrian infrastructure, as well as major infrastructure projects underway throughout the city. It's important to remember that September always brings an increase in travel demand. Summer vacations are over, students return to school, and people begin transitioning into their new routine. It's a pattern that we see every September. These are all types of pressures our transportation system is designed to manage. Grâce à une surveillance continue,
through ongoing monitoring and coordinated operational responses, we adapt and we adjust as needed to help maintain mobility across the network.
Now, the reality is that the federal increase in office presence is expected to increase commuter traffic to and from downtown by approximately 10% compared to this period last year. And this will be adding additional strain onto the network during a time that already typically sees increased traffic. Now, this is a citywide mobility challenge that requires coordination across departments and with our external partners. And our role in public works is clear: to help keep people moving safely and efficiently across the transportation network while minimizing impacts on residents, businesses, institutions, and visitors. Now, to achieve this, Public Works, Transit Services, Infrastructure and Water Services, Emergency Services, along with external partners, have developed a coordinated strategy designed to improve mobility, reduce congestion, and respond quickly to changing conditions. This approach is data-driven and it's flexible. Now, during August and September, Public Works will activate the Traffic Incident Management Group, also referred to as TIMG. This is an established multi-agency coordination group that exists to facilitate enhanced coordination between police agencies, bylaw and regulatory services, traffic operations, emergency responders, transit agencies, and other transportation partners. Now, while TIMG is typically activated during major incidents, significant weather events, or other major transportation disruptions, it will be used proactively during this period to support changing traffic patterns and increase traffic volumes.
The goal is to improve coordination, clear incidents more quickly, and restore traffic flow as efficiently as possible.
Traffic signal timings are continually monitored and adjusted during peak periods to improve traffic flow for all road users. Now, the city has access to over 400 traffic cameras to support these efforts, and residents can view their location and access their feed on ottawa.ca. Now, to further enhance our real-time monitoring capabilities, we're also installing 20 additional traffic cameras, and we're leveraging our right-of-way and traffic management inspectors to increase monitoring of key corridors and critical intersections. As for traffic impacts caused by construction, We reviewed projects across the city and identified opportunities to modify work to reduce impact on travelers, and I will cover that in more detail later in this presentation. We're also introducing several parking management tools that provide flexibility while helping to manage demand. And we're also strengthening oversight of activities that affect road capacity and improving traveler information by enhancing the city's interactive traffic map and working with mapping and navigation providers such as Google Maps and Waze to ensure that road conditions and traffic information remain current, helping travelers make informed decisions. Now, managing construction impacts has always been a key consideration in planning and delivery. However, recognizing the importance of preserving network capacity during peak commuting periods and in anticipation of increased traffic volumes, staff conducted a more comprehensive integrated review of project schedules, their location, traffic volumes, transit routes, and associated network impacts. Now, while many of the mitigation measures are consistent with our existing practices, we have applied them more strategically with increased oversight to minimize impact on mobility. So a few examples of measures that we've implemented included deferring selected projects or portions of ongoing projects, enhancing construction zone signage where needed to better support driver navigation and reduce delays. Where feasible, we adjusted construction operations by shifting work to overnight periods, limiting road closures, reducing lane closures, and modifying peak hour restrictions to preserve roadway capacity during the busiest time of day. In some cases, project work hours were extended to accelerate progress and reduce the overall duration of impacts on residents and commuters. And finally, increasing enforcement of construction permit conditions that prohibit lane closures during peak travel period, helping ensure roadway capacity remains available when demand is highest. Now, looking ahead, we will continue to accelerate project completion where possible, restore roadway capacity, and apply targeted traffic mitigation measures to reduce congestion and improve network performance. In addition, we've reviewed and strengthened the approval process for construction activities along what we call as a critical road network. And this consists of key arterials and priority roads that carry higher traffic volumes and play an essential role in moving people and goods throughout the city. Now, because the work on these corridors can have such a significant impact on mobility, we've introduced additional oversight and now requires senior management approval for planned construction activities to help mitigate impacts on mobility. Residents can stay informed about construction projects and other major traffic impacts through the city's interactive traffic map, which provides up-to-date information on transportation network conditions across the city. Our commitment is to help residents stay informed to make informed travel decisions. We've added to our monitoring efforts by tracking traffic conditions and collecting travel data from 18 locations connected to the downtown core that are representative of travel patterns across the city.
This will give us a consistent citywide view on how the network is performing during the week and help us identify emerging trends over time.
By tracking specific conditions over time, we can identify trends, assess the impact of network changes, and use data to inform operational and planning decisions. And the data collected as part of this work will be published weekly in the mobility dashboard, which will be discussed later in this presentation. Now, keeping traffic moving requires effective curbside and parking management. To distribute parking demand more effectively during the day, we're implementing an early bird rate at City Hall parking garage for parkers who arrive before 7 a.m. We also looked at major employment hubs in the downtown to identify areas where we could adjust on-street parking restrictions. On selected routes, we extended parking time limits from 2 to 3 hours to increase flexibility for short-term visitors and better leverage the overall parking supply. To provide additional flexibility and better manage demand near these major employment buildings, We extended no stopping periods in the morning from 9 to 9:30, and also extending in the afternoon from 5:30 to 6 p.m. We also created 13 loading zones to facilitate 15-minute drop-off and pickup of people working at these facilities. Staff are actively updating, based on all of the elements that I've identified, the signage to ensure that all parking changes are clearly communicated and accurately reflect the new restrictions. Updated parking maps are also available on the Transportation and Mobility Action Plan page on Engage Ottawa. So in closing, I would like to acknowledge that September will come with some challenges, and that it will take a few weeks for everyone to settle into their new routine and for travel patterns to stabilize. We are committed to doing everything we can to help residents, workers, businesses, and visitors navigate this transition as smoothly as possible. And by all working together, we can help ensure that people reach their destination safely and efficiently. And I will pass it now to my colleague, Rick Leary, General Manager of Transit Services, who will speak to the transit improvements. Merci.
Thank you. Good morning, bonjour. I'm pleased to be here today to provide an update on our fall transit improvements in support of the City of Ottawa's Transportation and Mobility Strategy and Action Plan. Now, as part of our Customer First Action Plan, OC Transpo is making your ride better. As you've heard me say at City Council and at our customer information sessions this summer, we're enhancing our fall transit service with new options for our customers. And they're going to include increasing service and reliability across the network and on Paratranspo. We're enhancing the customer's experience and providing targeted improvements to key employment areas where we expect ridership to increase. OC Transpo sees increased ridership every fall. For instance, in 2025, monthly ridership peaked in September to 7.4 million riders, and in October to 7.8 million riders. And we can expect this year, we can anticipate more demand. I'd let you know that we're ready to welcome our customers. Our team has been working diligently through the summer to prepare the bus fleet and trains for the anticipated increase in ridership and to deliver a positive experience for both new and returning customers. Next slide, please. Now, here's the service improvements customers can expect starting on August 30th. We're adding 6 new direct trips to Gatineau from Barrhaven and Canada. That means no transfers for our customers. We're making 30 bus routes more reliable, which means 50% of our customers will have more dependable bus trips. We'll have 90 additional buses in service starting in September, and 25% of overall buses in service will be brand new electric buses, which we know are more comfortable and dependable. O-Train Line 1 is getting more frequent. On the weekdays, for instance, during our peak periods, we're going to run a train every 4 minutes, where previously it was 5. On midday, previously it was 10 minutes, we're going to be running 6 minutes, and early evenings, we're making it 7 minutes compared to 10 minutes. This new frequency will add 90 additional trips on weekdays for our customers. On O-Train Line 2, weekday service will begin earlier at 6 a.m. from Limebank Station and 6:05 a.m. starting at Carleton Station. A new service we're adding, a new service that we're excited about is the express bus routes from Canada and Orleans. In Canada, we're going to have 20 new direct express bus trips from parking lots to Tunney's Pasture Station, D&D Carling Campus, and Canada North. And these trips will save customers at least 10 minutes every day. In Orleans, we're going to be introducing 10 new direct bus trips from park and ride lots to Blair Station. Customers will save at least 20 minutes every day on those routes. Now, OC Transpo also has excellent park and ride lots with over 9,000 spaces strategically located across the city. These facilities are a convenient option for many customers, and we encourage residents to take advantage of the free park and ride lot near them and take transit. Next slide, please. Now, this animated graphic shows the new service this fall. and it includes the express routes, direct trips to Gatineau, and key routes with new trips. And as you can see, the increase is citywide and significant. Next slide, please. Now, our goal is to provide better access across the major employment hubs. New express service on the 500 series routes will help move customers to their places of employment. We're going to introduce new key connections, including to Canada North, as we know, home of Canada's largest tech park. As we've also heard this summer at our customer information sessions, we know there's interest from across the city for better access to D&D Carling campus, and we're adding new express service to take employees there. For customers commuting to Gatineau from Canada and Barrhaven, we have new trips that will extend from Tunney's Pasture Station to Gatineau. This means there's no need to transfer and will save customers at least 10 minutes each day. Next slide, please. In the central and south parts of the city, O train line 1 frequency is increasing on weekdays, as I mentioned, and as I mentioned on line 2, they will be starting earlier in the morning. These are improvements that customers have been asking for, and I'd let you know that we're delivering them. We are also adding service on key routes throughout the city from park and ride lots at Baseline and Greenboro stations to connect to line 1. Next slide, please. Now, in the east end of the city, we have new express routes from Orleans park and ride lots to bring customers to Blair Station. I'd actually let you know that I rode those routes myself and saw for myself just how much time it can take to reach Blair for line 1. And instead now, our new direct express routes will save customers at least 20 minutes every day. We're also making other improvements in East Ottawa to provide more connections, as well as adjusting schedules to make key routes more reliable for our customers. Finally, for Orleans, we're working hard to complete system preparations and readiness activities on Stage 2 East Extension. More trains are running every day to help us there, to familiarize staff and identify any bugs that need to be addressed. This is necessary to build our confidence in the reliability of the system for customers and to be ready to move into trial running. And we'll have more information on the progress and timelines at our September Transit Committee meeting on September 10th. Next slide, please. You know, as I mentioned earlier, we're also providing more direct connections in the West End, where new express routes in Canada will provide direct service to Tunney's Pasture and Gatineau at peak periods. Next slide, please. Now, as part of our Customer First Action Plan, we're working to introduce meaningful improvements to paratransport service by strengthening reliability for customers. And I'm happy to say that beginning with the service changes on August 30th, we're launching our new late-night paratransport service pilot. Now, this one-year pilot will see service extended to 2 a.m. on Friday and Saturday nights, something we've heard quite a lot about from our customers. Now, as part of the Customer First Action Plan, we are also working on additional initiatives to increase paratransport trips availability and improve the customer experience, as well as we're adding new 6-meter and 7-meter minibuses to the fleet. Next slide, please. Now, as part of our commitment to putting customers first in everything that we do, we will have staff across the system at key locations to support customers as they adjust to the new service offerings and keep service running smoothly. I'll let you know our employees are excited to welcome customers back to transit this fall, and they are there to help. We want our customers to feel safe, secure, and comfortable in our stations and on our vehicles. We also have trip and travel planning tools available to assist customers. The Transit app provides real-time bus tracking, and the OC Transpo Travel Planner has the latest schedules to help plan your individual trips. We also have flexible fare options with O-Payment. Customers only have to tap their credit card, their debit card, or a phone to take advantage of daily or monthly fare capping. Now, as I've said, our team will be out there on the system to help customers by monitoring service. They'll provide continuous monitoring and support from our control center, where we can make adjustments as needed based on staff observations and customer feedback. I'd also let you know we have additional buses available on standby, out on location, to deploy to provide support when required. We want everyone to know how your ride is getting better this fall. You'll see information about all our service enhancements in digital and print marketing throughout August and into the fall. We'll also have a lot of information available at octranspo.com, at customer outreach events, and information centers. Yesterday, for instance, all of our councillors received their ward-specific information packages to assist in sharing details about transit improvements in their wards, and we're also sharing information about transit to major employment hubs and government partners. So I look forward to providing you with more updates about service into the fall as we continue to make more improvements through the Customers First Action Plan. I'll now pass it back to Debbie, who's going to speak a little bit more about how we're going to keep you informed. So thank you very much. Merci.
Thank you, Rick. So everything we have described this morning depends on one thing: residents knowing what to expect before they leave their homes. And that is why, alongside all the measures that you've heard of this morning, we're putting in place a set of tools that give residents a clear, consistent picture of travel conditions across Ottawa to help them make informed decisions for daily trips. The first is the Mobility Hub. It's now live on Engage Ottawa. It brings transportation information and travel planning resources together in one place, along with regularly featured travel tips. The second is the weekly Travel Trends newsletter. This is intended to be a look ahead. It flags the traffic and transit impacts expected in the week ahead so people can plan their week rather than just react to it on the day by day. The third is a transit and traffic trends dashboard. This is a look back. Each week, it reports on actual travel conditions, transit performance, park and ride availability, and travel times across the city. Together, these tools align the responsive and adaptive approach we are taking as part of this plan. What we learn from the data each week informs the adjustments we make the following week. That includes how we share information with residents to help inform their commutes. Residents can visit Engage Ottawa, subscribe to the weekly updates, and use the transit app and travel planner before you travel. Thank you. That concludes our presentation this morning, and we would be pleased to respond to your questions.
Merci, Debbie. Thank you. A copy of today's presentation will be provided to Council and the media following the technical briefing this morning. So first, as this is a technical briefing, we will now open the floor to questions from councillors or the designate in order of ward number and attendance. And I believe that there's no folks in the room who will be asking questions, so we'll be moving straight to Zoom. As we'd like to give everyone the opportunity to ask their questions in the allotted time frame, we ask that each councillor ask one question with one follow-up. Should you require further information or have additional questions, staff would be more than happy to follow up with you after the briefing. To
allow everyone the time to ask their questions, we'd ask each councillor to ask one single question with a follow-up question. If you need more information, if you have other questions, the city staff will be very, very pleased to get back to you after this technical briefing.
And our team will our team will turn on the microphone over Zoom. And so based on who is in attendance from the notes that I have, and I'm looking to Jessica to cue me if I'm missing anybody, we'll first go to Ward 7, Councillor Kavanagh. Do you have a question, Councillor Kavanagh?
Okay, I didn't expect to be so quick. No, thank you. I really appreciate the work that's being done. And special kudos on getting people to the DND campus in Bay Ward. I think that's a huge step forward since that has been a major concern in terms of traffic. But my question is about the construction we have in Bay Ward is enormous. Richmond Road has been torn up for good reason and is still a major block, and Woodruff is still closed to the KZM. And I want to know if we're going to be making an extra effort to work with Kev to move this project along so that that also can be usable space or usable for traffic, but and also you know, what we're doing for active transportation and to help those that are using alternative methods like bicycles or walking to get to work. Thank you.
Hi, Councillor. It's Amanda. Thank you so much for the question. We are working very closely with the constructor, Kev, in terms of accelerating wherever possible the construction along the Richmond Road corridor. We know that that work has been happening for quite some time, and it has a very large impact on the residents in the area and anyone traveling through the corridor. So we're taking every step we can to try and move that work forward as quickly as possible and get to the point where we're starting to put in the final landscaping and facilities to really improve mobility through that corridor. I would just wonder if one of the other colleagues here might want to speak to transportation through the area or generally the active transportation.
It's Elaine. Maybe just I'll start, and if somebody else wants to pick up. I think when we're looking at, as a general overview, when we're looking at basically the increase in commuter traffics, what we're trying to do is accommodate basically all modes of travel. So it's not just about cars; it's about moving people, regardless of their selected mode of travel. So we are looking at every opportunity to ensure that basically those corridors are not being impacted, and where there are suitable detour routes for people to be able to use. And also over the last number of years, there have been significant improvements in terms of active transportation corridors. And some of that work is ongoing now to be able to help to provide safer routes for all communities.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that pedestrians aren't forgotten when we're trying to move traffic through, and that's for all parts of the city, that we keep intersections safe for pedestrians and cyclists when we're trying to move those cars through. So that's very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Now we'll move to Ward 8 with Councillor Johnson, please.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the presentation. So for me, it's really coming alive that a lot of these pieces of the plan are not. They aren't new asks. They're asks that residents have had for a number of years in order to be able to reliably count on transit. So I'm glad to see that the impetus is on us. That this return to work is one of the reasons why we're able to mobilize some of these actions so quickly. But I'm also I'd like to understand why it took so long for some of these pieces to come online, and why this particular moment has been able to galvanize certain actions and commitments that have been, well understood in the public realm for quite some time.
Thank you, Councillor. It's Rick Leary. I'll take that. I look back, because I've only been here 5 months, but when I look what's happened in the recent years is, when the council made a big decision investing a lot of money in the public transit in the city, and almost $1 billion is going into the bus fleet, for instance. And it really is unfortunate the manufacturers through supply chains were late with delivering the new buses, and you had a real tough time earlier this year providing a quality service. And it's one of the things that Wendy, the city manager, mentioned to me when I first got here about focusing on getting back to the reliability. And I've spent a lot of time in the customer first action plan talking about that, retiring the oldest buses, focus on a new maintenance program, bringing the new buses in, getting the hiring in place, as well as working on schedules. It's very difficult because, as you can imagine, going through COVID and coming out of COVID, as you're trying to work on developing schedules with traffic patterns that were occurring in an irregular basis, is what I'm going to say. So I look back at what the tough times that many of us in the industry had, and say that, you're in a real good shape right now as I look forward to see over the coming years with the quality of public transit you're going to have, because we have a more stability going forward is what I'll say. But we also, many of us in the industry talk about focusing more on the future so we do better jobs projection so we don't let these things kind of happen again, trying to be a little bit more diligent in timeframes. But you'll see more of that and hear more of that in 2027 as we start talking about capital and investment plans at Transit Committee, fleet plans at Transit Committee, getting a little bit more out in front of it. I've let the CFO know that my hope is that we can do a better job within OC Transpo to help the city do long-term planning and funding to improve upon that. So I just see this as the beginning of many good things to come.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Do you have a follow-up question?
I do, thank you. And thanks for that response, Rick. I mean, certainly my vision for Ottawa is transit is the spine. Transit is the backbone of a strong city that supports everyone. So I'm ready to support you. And I'm glad to see a lot of these pieces come through. So the other question I had was, if these pieces are successful, what kind of mode share targets are being assisted here? I'm assuming we've done some modeling against our transportation master plan and how we're looking to move mode share in these various areas. So can you help me to understand how these investments on these particular pieces are going to advance the mode share targets that we're after in the transportation master plan, please? And how will that be evaluated over time? Thank you.
Councillor, it's Marcia Wallace. I'll answer that. So as you pointed out correctly, we do have mode share targets that are ambitious in Ottawa to really drive transportation choices to active transportation and largely with transit. We haven't been able to meet those targets but that is what the Transportation Master Plan is intending to do. And we are monitoring both the initiatives as part of this mobility plan and all other initiatives as we work our way to the next iteration of the transit master plan. And we do modeling. And when we come back with that plan, we'll be assessing in real time kind of what has happened, where are we? So we work very closely with our partners in OC Transpo to better understand which things are working. It helps inform our annual capital budgets and the priorities we put on new projects.
Moving now to Award 10, Councillor Bradley, please. Moving now to Ward 12, Councillor Plante.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So the other day when we learned about the potential for some of our community center parking lots having all-day parking to accommodate for people who needed to park there, the Sandy Hill Arena was mentioned as a potential location, and I had asked the question if those revenues were gonna stay in the ward from those very specific parking accommodations. Do we have an update on that?
Councillor, it's Dan Chenier. Yes, we have confirmation that any revenue taken in from the fees for those spots would come to the recreation budget, and the intent would be to reinvest in the ward.
How can we assure that?
Councillor, based on the amount that is actually collected, and bear in mind that at Sandy Hill, we're talking about only a limited number of spots, as we are at all facilities. We'll identify the amounts and consult both with community and your office to see what might be the best way to spend those funds in terms of community animation.
And I'm sorry, I have like a follow-up to the follow-up. Sorry, I have the Legion on Cyr Avenue in Vanier, which is interested in helping to rent their parking out. Should they reach out to the city or just do it privately? Hello?
So Councillor, this is Will McDonald. We'll be reaching out to everyone that falls within that jurisdiction to help them understand how they can both register and for us to make the public aware of where these opportunities are. So we'll be in touch with them shortly.
Okay, merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Councillor. Moving to Ward 13, Councillor King.
Thank you so much. I really want to thank staff for this presentation. Also wanted to acknowledge the comments that Councillor Johnson made. I think we agree totally with all those sentiments in terms of improving service reliability. And that's what my question is really going to focus on. I just want staff to reiterate the work that they are going to do, whether there are operational adjustments or just general improvements to improve route reliability within the inner urban core, especially within the inner urban wards. We've had concerns around Route 9, around Route 17, 18, 25 in terms of their reliability. And also would like staff to talk about service alignments to ensure that both students can get to school on time, as well as workers getting to the workplace on time, based on route scheduling.
Council, it's Rick Leary. Thank you for that question. I'll outline this in a number of ways as I did in the customer first action plan. The reliability of the fleet earlier this year, as many people are well aware, was causing an impact on the overall reliability of service. We knew that in, up to 10, 12, 15% of the trains, buses, would have a problem during the course of service during a daily basis. And it was really attributed to poor reliability. We know now through some of the data that we're looking at that 35, could be 40% of service did not arrive on time. We know that looking at the data. We know the schedules, the staffing, and the vehicle reliability impacted that. Over the course of the last 5 months, we've retired the oldest or the most difficult vehicles to maintain, put the staff to focus on what is maintainable. So we're seeing significant improvements in the reliability of the existing fleet. While we bring in, I believe we have 170, almost 180 new buses in. I keep saying trains, I apologize. Buses in today, so that we know that 25% of the buses going into service in September, all right, are going to be brand new. So working with the programs on maintenance, with the new buses coming in, we see that reliability. What Pat and his team have also done is change the schedules, working with the union, working with customers, working with many of the councillors, right, to address the most critical reliability on when it comes to schedules and routes. 30 routes have had major adjustments to them coming this September. Will it be perfect? No. But as we've heard, we're going to adapt and we're going to be more aware of what's going on based on traffic congestion and make adjustments going forward. We have an additional, and that equates to about 50% of our overall ridership or customers will notice that big difference. We have this statement internally now about we're going to provide what we advertise. And so you're going to see a lot of that. We've also spent significant time. I met 2 classes this week, 28 bus operators on Tuesday and 28 bus operators on Wednesday, all right, that are coming in to training program. We've made a significant push towards training internally. As well, more recently, earlier this week, I met with the president of Algonquin College. We're talking about apprenticeship programs, building the apprenticeship program. I've been talking internally about doing a better job hiring women for frontline jobs and doing better outreach and working so we can get the pool of people that come in to be frontline operators or mechanics. All right, so we have a pool so we can take care of these vehicles and provide better service going forward. So, the three variables for me are staffing, vehicles, and schedules. And significant changes have been made to all 3 of those going into September. So my belief is you're going to see a significant improvement in reliability on the bus fleet, as well as, and I've said it for a long time now, I've said it to the media, I've been here 5 months, but even when it was 1-car train, that train ran real nice on line 1. Now we have the 2-car trains back since the 8th of June, and we got significant capacity. We're increasing the capacity by 90 trips a day. Earlier on line 2. So, I'm seeing that the capacity and reliability should significantly improve over where we were 8 or 10 months ago.
Well, I appreciate that work, and I know that you've been making delegations along with elected officials over the last week to provincial ministers and ministries at the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. Of course, we're going to continue to ask these questions because our residents just expect good service, and anything that we can do in terms of investments to really ensure that we reduce peak period cancellations, the service gaps that riders have experienced, buses disappearing from tracking apps and overcrowding from impacted students and other downtown commuters will be appreciated. Thank you for the work, and obviously we'll be monitoring the implementation this fall.
Thank you. Moving now to Ward 17, Councillor Menard.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation and for staff for being there. I think one of the biggest questions on people's mind right now is the return to office and the concern that that has brought and the new costs that that has brought for the city of Ottawa, as well as obviously the federal government. Given the decision that was made several months ago now to return to office and the congestion that that will bring, the extra costs that that will bring. And I will just remind you that was made with very little evidence about productivity, and probably one of the worst decisions this council could have made. I'm wondering, is that going to be revisited to get some of these cars off the road to allow employees to work from home where they're more productive? Instead of moving forward with the return to office mandate 5 days a week? Is that going to be reversed?
Good morning, Councillor Menard. It's Wendy Stephenson speaking. Thank you for your question. When that decision was made and looking at, the amount of staff that we have working in office, approximately, I want to say 15% kind of have that in-office presence. When we rolled that out in the organization, and I talked a lot about this when the decision was communicated to council, that we would provide a lot of flexibility to staff in the sense of not having that in presence every day, all day. And we're continuing to do that. We're modifying workspaces to make sure that they are collaborative for staff, create that great environment in terms of the relationship building here. And we're going to continue that work. So there is no plan to revisit. But what I can say is that there is ultimate flexibility between the employer and employees. And that's really important to us and important to our employees. And we're completely respecting that.
I think the ultimate flexibility would have been maintaining what had been done pandemic, post-pandemic, of 3 days a week with the option to come in if people wanted that option for those other days. And unfortunately, we're seeing the repercussions both with the city of Ottawa and the federal government with return to office in this way, and it's costly for our city. I will just say that many of these measures are incentivizing more driving. Unfortunately, we're going to see more parking, more driving as a result, more cars on the road if we continue to incentivize that type of behavior. There's a simple way to solve this problem, and it's to offer transit services for a much reduced rate. That will help get people back on the bus, back on the train, where they haven't tried it before, potentially, or they've seen the media headlines and the concerns. But incentivizing them to get back on transit would be the very best thing that we could do. And I'm not just talking about reliability increases. I'm talking about the cost to pay. This is costly for everyone. They're going to have to pay for parking. They're going to have to drive their cars with gas. This is hugely expensive for people with RTO5. It's not just the city and federal government it's expensive for. It's also for individuals. So what are we doing to incentivize people to get back on the bus and the train on the financial side? That's one of the best things that we can be doing for September, is to offer something of a much lower rate and incentivize people taking the train in and the bus in rather than more cars being shoved downtown.
Thank you very much for that question. It's Rick Leary. One of the things that that's impressed me here in Ottawa is the fare capping policy that's in place. The daily and the monthly fare capping, so that people can budget on a monthly basis or take into account that coming into the city or moving around the city, there's a maximum cost on a daily basis for them. And so that's a big change that I see in this city that other cities are now looking at to implement. So I look at the progress that's been made here with the investment in buying vehicles, investing in people, investing in technology and schedules, and then at the same time, looking at fare capping. That I say that those are very much the type of incentives that are necessary that'll grow ridership back in this city.
Okay, well, I'll let you move on to the next questioner. I just say that if we're spending all this money on, return to office for vehicles, incentivizing more vehicles, we could spend some of that on reducing transit costs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Moving to Ward 18, Councillor Carr, please.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the senior management table for being there in person. I'm sorry that I'm not there in person. I have meetings in the ward after. I'm actually going to squeeze in two questions. I just wanted to follow up on Councillor Menard's question. When the city made a decision regarding RTO 5 at the city, we were told that there would be a guarantee that there would be flexibility maintained, and I heard that from the city manager this morning. Is it possible to give, I understand you wouldn't have this information available, but would it be possible to update council in the following weeks on exactly how many employees have been impacted by actually having to be in the office 5 days a week? And I asked that because I recently met with a resident who works for the city who there is no space available for them to come into the office. And I have met with other staff who said that they're still working partly at home. So I was wondering if I could ask the city manager if there would be an update on how many people's work arrangements have actually shifted to 5 days a week, if that's something that you could provide council.
Councillor Carr, it's Wendy speaking. I'm happy to take that away, and I'll loop back with you on that.
Okay, appreciate that. My other question is, it's been great to hear about the express routes added from Canada and Orleans, and I know my colleague Councillor King was asking, what about the inner urban? I'm kind of an inner/outer urban ward, and unfortunately, when the LRT came in, it cut off a lot of our direct routes downtown, which understandably. But I'm wondering what is going to be done. I've heard Mr. Leary speak about the buses that had the reliability change. We've added new routes on others in order to make sure that the reliability gets better. We've changed the scheduling, sorry. But how are we going to be monitoring this on an ongoing basis? There's an awful lot of routes in the city, but many of them, take a long time, even from areas that are very close to downtown. And I think of my ward as an example where, if a bus gets behind, it's actually faster for me to walk at 55 minutes to City Hall than it is to, grab a couple buses and transfer. So I'm just wondering how this monitoring is going to be done and future adjustments are going to be made. I do expect that we will have an uptake of people using the transit system. As somebody worked for the Federal Public Service for over 20 years, I mean, that was our main method of travel, was the bus and was transit. And as parking spaces have opened up downtown and more flexible work arrangements, we saw, people maybe drove on occasion when they had to come into the office as opposed to, had to be there 4 or 5 days a week. So it made financial sense to take the bus. So I do expect we'll see an uptick. And I'm just wondering how that ongoing monitoring will be done to further adjust routes.
Hi, Councillor. It's Pat Scrimger speaking. So as you know, Rick mentioned the three main factors that are going to improve reliability of service, continuing to train new staff, bringing in the brand new electric buses, and retiring the oldest, most problematic buses, and bringing in new schedules on the routes that have had the poorest on-time performance over the last few months. And then we start into monitoring right away, the first day. We're monitoring in so many ways. We're hearing from customers. We are looking at the data that come in from the GPS location of the buses in real time and for analysis. We take feedback from operators when they see something on the road. They've got a direct line to get that back to our analysts. We have the Transit Control Center that is watching every day, making notes and looking for any exceptions that need resolution. Then those come together. Quite often we can make an improvement if there's a particular problem. We can make an improvement by shifting bus assignments around within a couple of days. For the longer term, we take the same data, we collect it, and we can feed back to council if we are going to need to increase the size of our bus fleet, or if we're going to need to increase the size of our budget, our operating budget in future years. And so it happens every day. It's the life of what we do, And, these new schedules come into effect on August 30th. We think that the largest number of customers will be back by either the day after or the week after Labor Day. And we're watching it every minute and every day right through and drawing conclusions on every observation.
Okay, thanks.
If I could jump in, if it's all right, Councillor, because one of the things I'm talking to staff, strictly again, one of the things I'm talking to staff about is again taking a longer term view of what we want to be, 10 to 10 plus years from now. With that, we've heard a lot of individuals out there at these public information sessions talking about, changes in service, what we can do differently. A lot of people have talked about new ways to bus. And I got to tell you, if I was here then, I very likely would have done something similar. But as we evolve, we learn to do things differently. We've added the express buses now and the park and ride buses. I'm hearing about a lot of more detail from customers about that type of specific thing. So my real hope is that in 2027 as well, we get to a point, and I've asked staff on an annual basis, have an annual service plan, right, that reflects what the customers are asking for. And you typically do that in an August, September timeframe, so you can get it together, get approval with the transit committee, with the council, and then put it into for a budget request. So we're going to change the way we're doing things differently in the future, just so we can see where we want to be. It's not about just changing what we have today. It's about the growth and the growth of the city. I've been talking about these 300,000 or 400,000 individuals that are moving to this city over the next 20, 25 years. So we have to prepare for that. I'm going to take a much more longer term view, again, working with the CFO and in the capital planning area.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And thank you, Mr. Leary, for doing those in-person sessions and the online session with customers directly. I think that's really important to see the general manager out there making those contact with residents who are customers of OC Transport, maybe future customers. Just one follow-up question. Sorry, I know I'm pushing the limits here, but is it possible to keep council regularly updated on adjustments that have been made and some of the work that's being done? Just an update every several weeks on what's being monitored and what's being looked at. I think that would be very useful. Particularly, we're entering a blackout period where we're not going to have the meetings that we're used to, and so I think having that information and providing councillors with information on what's being looked at and what's being considered would be important if you could take that back.
Thank you, Councillor. We will, I can promise you, we will do that. On September 10th, we're going to be introducing some new KPIs, key performance indicators at Transit Committee. And the intent is to have these be more reflective of the customer experience on the street. So, and then what I want to do is, even though we won't be having transit committees or councils at a point, make sure you get those on a regular basis, and as well as mid-month updates on, a lot of the things that are happening through the course of transit and where we're doing the adjustments and where we see some of our challenge. So we'll do just that.
Okay, much appreciated. Thank you to everyone for this.
Thank you. Moving to Ward 20, Councillor Skalski.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Just one quick question. You mentioned that you were going to produce a newsletter to notify residents or to help them plan ahead. Can you share a little bit more detail about what exactly is going to be brought into that newsletter? Like, is it going to be like all of the road detours that are expected in the city? Like, is it kind of a compilation of information that we otherwise get through a whole bunch of other sources brought in a way that residents can plan better, or something else? I'm trying to better understand the utility of that newsletter. Thanks.
Hi, Councillor. This is Debbie Stewart. Thank you for the question. So the newsletter is a key piece of information. It really is about looking ahead. It's going to compile all the information related to the key information that residents require to be able to help plan their trips for the week ahead. So, for example, it'll have information with regards to travel times and whatnot, and peak periods. And so then residents can look at that and decide if there is one day a week, for example, that they're going to be working virtually, what day might be the best to really meet their travel needs. So it really is about bringing everything together in an easy to use place, just clear, simple information that helps residents really plan their commutes for the week ahead.
Okay, so do we know whether it will include detours and like actual road work that's planned in the city, or is it more transit data and information sort of trending stuff?
Hi, Councillor Jocelyn Turner here. So the newsletter, as Debbie mentioned, it will be providing sort of an overview of the week ahead, but it will also be providing that real-time data traffic information where we'll be able to forecast or provide an overview of the week before from a trend perspective from traffic volumes for the week. It will also include a list of all the major construction projects, the mitigation measures in place, if there are some for those construction projects that are active, as well as if there are detours. And that list will expand to include active mobility if there are closures for MUPs, for example, multi-use pathways, for example. It'll also include a high-level overview of transit information, some real-time data from the week before, as well as if there are any changes, as well as a number of links for residents to get more information based on how much detail they're looking for. We want to really provide timely, accurate, and actionable updates so that residents have the choice to take what information is most important for them to make informed decisions for their own personal commutes. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Now moving on to Ward 22, Councillor DeRoche.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Bonjour. I appreciate the presentation. And as I said at council, I'm of the view that we should be on this war footing 365 days of the year in prioritizing mobility. So there'll be lots of lessons learned from this. And I hope that we're going to continue this posture for many more months and years, not just in the fall. The type of coordination really, I think, is unprecedented. And we're acting like a big city, which we are. I wanted to just flag an issue that is in my constituency, and I think it might be happening in other constituencies, particularly in the suburban context, is where we have schools that are high-density schools. So, for example, in Finley Creek, there's a school that will have 22 portables. And despite our best efforts to manage this, these areas become really traffic Chernobyls for about a half an hour, 45 minutes in the morning. Some of these locations, in this location in particular in Finley Creek, impact the transit that runs through there and the OC Transpo bus that run through there. How are you going to address those situations for, again, keeping the buses moving through those pinch points and having realistic scheduling? Because you know that with 22 portables, this is going to be a problem and the buses will be snarled and the schedule should be accurate, and we should be doing what we can to help those buses move through there, whether that be deploying special constables or what have you. So could you just comment on that context, realistic schedules around schools that we know are going to be problematic this fall? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. It's Jake Gravel here speaking. Thanks for the question. We will be working closely with OC Transpo. If there are those pinch points around these schools, we will be proactively monitoring it and ensuring that OC Transpo has a clear path through those areas.
Good to hear. Lastly, I was quite pleased to see the collaboration with the Ottawa Police. And again, we need to act like a big city that when there are accidents that are fender benders or when there are traffic snarls, that the police are working to move those vehicles as quickly as possible. I think we've all been in those situations where you're on a major road and there's a stalled car or what have you, and that causes significant congestions. So could you just comment on what we're doing and the collaboration that we're going to see with police so that those key corridors that you talked about, Monsieur Gontier, are moving, and if police need to intervene, that they make an intervention to keep traffic moving? Thanks.
Yes, and I respond to the question. So the point that you're highlighting is something that we continue to evolve on in terms of improving the overall coordination. Certainly, working with our police agencies is a key coordination point. By activating the traffic incident management group earlier through the peak period that we're expecting, we're going to have closer access to basically the police agencies, to bylaw services. We're going to have more eyes on the road so that when these incidents happen, we'll be able to have a quicker turnaround time in terms of being able to get those corridors resolved. So that is very much the focus of some of the initiatives that are putting forward is basically not just increasing the coordination, but also our ability to respond in a more timely manner.
Thank you. Thank you all again.
Thank you very much. Now, last but not least, moving to Mayor Sutcliffe, who has a question.
OK, thank you. Je tiens tout d'abord à vous remercier.
First of all, I would like to thank you for the work that you've done, all of these initiatives.
Don't worry, Rick, I'll switch to English now. Thank you very much for the hard work that went into all of these initiatives. I just wanted to clarify one thing and then ask a couple of questions. First of all, there was a reference made earlier to the council decision about return to office, but just to clarify, Wendy, it was your decision, correct?
That's correct, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. First question, do we have data on travel times on public transit and in cars from previous years that we can measure? For example, in September, we could, compare how long it takes to get from point A to point B, September 2026 versus 2025, or let's say 2019 before the pandemic. Does any data like that exist for roads and for public transit?
Mr. Mayor, I'll start and then hand it over to our colleagues in transit. So we have very limited data when it comes to previous years. And part of it is basically the data that we even have access to is not necessarily in the form that we're able to use for apples to apples comparison. So what we've established, and we're going to be able to maintain this moving forward, are basically specific locations that are basically going from various parts of the city into the downtown. And we're going to be able to basically monitor this point forward based on a consistent basis, the changes in trends related to that. So as we move into the future, we will have a lot better data to be able to provide that comparability.
And for transit, Mr. Mayor, we collect data on, and we maintain those data on how long it takes for buses to move across the route. And we use that continuously, and we refer back and we look forward with it. What we don't have is what the travel experience is in data form for the customers as they make a trip on one bus and then on one train. We don't have their travel time, but we know that when the bus and the train travel time gets slower or faster, that the customers are part of that experience.
Right. Are we able to start doing that going forward, though? Just because I think, I'm looking at this from a couple of perspectives. Number one, we're doing everything we can to make traffic and transit flow as smoothly as possible starting in the fall. We need to remind people, though, too, that rush hour is still going to be rush hour. You're not going to get from Orleans or Canada to downtown in 12 minutes, no matter what method you use. If you're going at 8:30 in the morning, it's still going to be rush hour. It'd be good to know how that compares to previous years, but if we can't do that, at least to be able to measure that going forward.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that is definitely the intent, and it's data that we also plan on continuing to share with the public. So this is not just data that we're going to be collecting for ourselves in terms of planning basically the operation of the system. It's information we're going to be pushing out to residents so that over time they're able to also see basically some of the trends so that they're able to basically adjust their travel patterns basically to meet their needs. So what we're trying to do is basically provide as much information as we can for people to make their own decisions, because we recognize that every situation is unique.
And as for OC Transpo, I would say we're in the same position the lines that was made a statement on. The information that we have coming in with the systems that we have in place, we're using these tools differently. We have the contractors in now helping us to develop, not just collecting the data, but actually analyzing the data from a timing point and a time of day. So there's a lot of good information that'll be presented in the future.
Okay, that's great. And last question, Debbie, Will, thank you for all of your hard work leading this initiative. Very much appreciated. Are we going to be kind of regrouping after a week or two in September to kind of review what's working, what's not working, lessons learned, how do we adapt and pivot so that if we need to change the plan, tweak it, overhaul it, whatever's necessary a week or two into September, that we're prepared to do that?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Mayor. Absolutely. That is, it's very much the plan. There are regular meetings that are happening on a weekly basis as we implement, and that is intended to continue as we move into the fall. We'll be using the data that is being collected to really understand where we're having issues, what is working well, and what could be improved. There is also the Engage Ottawa site that allows residents to provide feedback. We will be using that information and that input to inform how we pivot and modify the plan as well. So it's very much an important part of this. We don't know exactly the decisions that residents and commuters will take. And so as we see the traffic patterns kind of evolve, we're ready to adapt and to respond so that we can have the best possible transportation network for residents come this period.
Okay, that's great. And I'm glad to hear about the Engage Ottawa aspect. We should promote that so that we're reaching out to our residents. We want to hear from you on what's working and what isn't, what we can improve, you know, your suggestions, your ideas on how we can do things better. And we'll adapt and evolve as the months, as the weeks and months advance. Okay, thank you very much. Merci.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and members of council for your questions. That now concludes the question portion from councillors of this technical briefing, and I'll now pass the mic over to Kendra Titley, who will lead the media Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now begin with today's media availability. We'll take questions from the media. Nous allons maintenant répondre aux questions des journalistes. You may ask one question with a follow-up. Vous pouvez poser une question et une question de suivi. We'll start with Joe Tunney, CBC Ottawa.
Hello and happy Friday. I'm wondering if you can just talk to me. I know you already, there's a few questions about express buses, but I have another, which is just, you know, when you look at that map, they seem to be exclusively in the east-west directions. And I'm just wondering why there isn't something running from Barrhaven to Tunney's or something similar. Why does it seem to be focused on those two directions? I don't, maybe Rick, if you don't, I'll point that at you if you don't mind.
So we're providing extra capacity across the transit network on all from all directions, all parts of the city where the data showed that we needed to. From the east, buses that can go more directly to Blair Station without serving residential neighborhoods along the way, directly from the park and ride lots, is a way we can offer faster service to customers. From the west, buses that bypass some of the detours that are in place because of light rail construction is a way that we can get people along the highway and down the transitway, sorry for that noise, more quickly. From the southwest, all of the buses and routes, all the routes 271, 270, 275, 277, 74, 75, 73, all use the transitway to get down as quickly as possible. So there's no, there isn't a way to get there more quickly than the service that runs today. And from the southeast, Route 98 on the transitway feeding into Herdman Station, you can't beat it. It's as fast as anything could ever be on that corridor.
I don't want to use my second question for this, but is there, can you just provide a quick clarification between express routes and direct buses and where they're used, why they're chosen in different situations?
The buses that we're labeling as express are running generally in the same corridor as an all-day bus. So for instance, the 539 in the east is running between the same points as the 39, but the 539, the express trips, travel more quickly over the same corridor by not serving some of the residential streets. The 561 from the west runs over the same corridor as the 61, but doesn't have so many stops along the way and doesn't make the detours into places like Bayshore and Pinecrest to make local connections.
So my actual second question, I just want to ask, so line 1 starts at 5 a.m., but line 2, I think even in the fall, it's only going to start at 6, which is an hour later. And I'm just kind of wondering, why is there that later start? And will that compound with, again, kind of that lack of express, what we were just talking about between when we look at the south-north express routes. Like, yeah, but can you talk to me why line 2 starts later?
So line 2 serves a smaller population than line 1, and the numbers of people traveling very, very early in the morning is much lower coming up from the south than it is from the east and the west. So what we do on the line 2 corridor is we run buses up from that area feeding into Herdman Station starting at about 5 in the morning because the buses are just better suited for the numbers of people who are traveling at that time of day.
Thank you. We'll now go to Josh Morano, CTV Ottawa.
Morning, everyone. I guess a lot of people are expecting a lot of headaches. You said yourselves that there's going to be some challenges once September comes. What are your message to commuters, whether it be people going back to school, returning to office, drivers, transit riders? What can they expect? What are you guys wanting to let them know?
I'll start with that question. It's Debbie Stewart, GM of Strategic Initiatives, and then I'll allow my colleagues to add. In terms of what residents can expect, well, one, I think they can expect a city is providing them with as much information as possible to be able to plan their routes and to choose their mode of transportation. As a city, we are investing significantly in transit, and our general manager of transit services has provided a lot of information on that today. We encourage residents to make use of that, and to, if you are a rider, be assured that there's enhanced services, and if you haven't, come and try it. So we're really encouraging that, but we're also encouraging all modes of transportation, so walking and cycling as well, and making improvements so that if you do choose those modes, you have a better experience as well. And then if you do drive, we're watching and we're monitoring and making changes as we can. And as the mayor had mentioned, we're also just actively monitoring and getting together and making adjustments as well.
And if I could, the message from OC Transpo is all about reliability, and that's what the customers have been asking us for. And in the 5 months that I've been here, our customers understand traffic, they understand congestion. They want to know that the bus is going to be there when we say it's going to be there, and then they can plan accordingly from there. So that's the message I have. We worked on what they've been asking us to work on.
Wonderful to hear. And you touched on a little bit, Debbie. Just talk to me a little bit about, are you guys prepared? And Mr. Sutcliffe talked about a meeting later on. If traffic's really bad, if people are upset with train service, if things don't go according to plan, can the plan be adjusted later on?
Absolutely. That's a key part of this strategy and this action plan is flexibility, receiving information from as many sources as we can, which includes residents, and then ensuring that we're ready to adapt and respond to what we're actually seeing. So this plan has been built on that. Council has granted some additional flexibility to general managers to be able to adapt the plan if we do see conditions evolving, and the plan does require some changes and modifications. And so that is a really important tool that will allow us to respond effectively. And then, as my colleague GM Gonche had mentioned, we're activating some teams and mechanisms that allow for quick response if there is an incident. So that Tim G is one example that GM Gonche had mentioned. And so that is another example of just being ready to respond quickly.
Thank you. We'll now go online to Elaine McGregor with the Centertown Buzz.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Mr. Gonche mentioned some additional network monitoring stations to figure out traffic, and I noticed that none of them was any closer to downtown than Carlingwood. Now, there didn't seem to be any of the inner urban core, and I was wondering why there were none closer to the inner urban core.
So thank you for the question. So what we're trying to do is provide as much information as we can to residents on basically different starting points that tend to be basically our furthest commutes in terms of the time that it would take to come to downtown. So that's why we've identified basically 18 locations that we're going to be monitoring closely. We've got additional traffic data collection also that we're taking downtown through different spots. So the intent of collecting that information is to be able to push that back to residents so that when they're planning their commutes, they're able to see basically the times in the morning and in the afternoon peaks that are busier or lighter, so that they're able to have the information to plan ahead.
My second question is for Mr. Leary. I want to know if there are any plans to add additional trips to, in particular, Route 6, which is notorious for being very overloaded.
Hi, it's Pat Scrimger. So the routes on which we've increased service for September were largely decided from data that we received from the federal government on where their workers live and work, and so we could plot out the best path for them, and we added that onto our current ridership levels to see which services need to be increased. So from the south, that work indicated that the highest priority routes to add more service were Route 98 and Route 5, and that's part of the schedule for September. That analysis showed that Route 6, 7, and 10, also very important routes, we're going to be able to handle the extra traffic that the data showed. But as Mr. Leary said earlier, we're continuously monitoring the information and the ridership levels. We have supervisors. Every bus has a bus operator on it. We hear from customers right away. We do data collection on every vehicle to see what the conditions are, and if there's any times of day when an extra trip is needed to add more capacity, we have those buses in reserve and standing by, ready to be dispatched as needed.
Thank you. Have I missed any media? Est-ce que j'ai manqué quelqu'un? Okay, this concludes today's media availability. Ceci conclut le point de presse d'aujourd'hui, along with the technical briefing. Thank you.